Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from FantasyFootballScout.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's David.
My name's Az.
Welcome, David. Welcome, Az. Luke was to join us, but unfortunately got called away to work at the last minute. But we will talk briefly about his team as well, and also he's kindly sent in his clean sheet and differential picks as well. So this may well be an emotional Scoutcast. We're going to be talking about the emotions behind fantasy football a little later, but also none of us have Aguero, and the double game week has been less than impressive for us so far. With one game to go though, at least we have hope. David, what else have we got coming up on the show?
Yes, as you mentioned, we're kind of in this weird limbo state where, our game week 25s are still make or break, and it's all depending probably, I'm guessing, on Leroy. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah, we'll talk about kind of how we've got on so far and what we need from the Wednesday night game. And then, as always, we've got three talking points to break into. Things that kind of aren't that affected by Man City and Everton. There's still plenty we can talk about. So we're going to talk about a player this week. We're going to be talking about Gonzalo Higuain. He's obviously broken his duck already. 2 goals against Huddersfield, and already people are considering either him or Hazard. So we're going to have a discussion about Chelsea and what we can do with them going forward. We are still going to talk about Man City, but not in a game week 25 sense, in a game week 27 sense. Obviously, they've got no match in game week 27 because of the League Cup final. So it's really a case of what we're going to do with them. What's our exit strategy? Do we have an exit strategy? And what do we want to do with them after game week 27? And then our talking point this week is a little bit different. We could probably talk about this any game week, to be honest, because I think it's always going to be relevant. But this week, especially so, with a lot of people kind of being sort of left behind in the dust after Aguero's obviously gone and scored a hat-trick. It's basically FPL and mental health and how we cope with bad game weeks. I know there's a lot of people out there who, when they have a bad game week in FPL, it's just really awful for them, and it kind of ruin the rest of your day, the rest of your weekend. And yeah, Az is raising his finger there. It's something that's really defined his season. I'm sure, Joe, I know you've had some tough times in the past as well. I have as well. Mm-hmm. So, really speaking from personal experience, we're just going to talk about how you handle it from a kind of, a human perspective. We can talk about some of the stats all we like, but, how do we process that that kind of concept when it's thrown at us, and, work a way to try and keep an even keel in our own minds. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I think that would be really interesting. And then, yeah, as we always do, we finish by looking ahead to the next game week, tentatively talking about our transfer plans, because obviously this game week's not over yet, and we'll have our clean sheets and differentials too. So let's get started.
Yeah, so we'll look at game week 25 so far. Now, Luke isn't here, but he goes first. So I'm going to put his team up as well, because it's a good example of a team I think's done rather well. Now, he did captain Sane, so he is awaiting Sane to hopefully turn up and get loads and loads of goals and assists. He's got Richarlison as well to go. But 63 points so far, I think that's pretty good going, because those Chelsea lads turned up. David Luiz has been turning up for quite some time for their owners. I'm kicking myself months ago. And I say that months ago, not even weeks ago, months ago, I didn't make the swap for Alonso to him. So he's in Luke's team. And he was patient with Hazard as well. And there we go. Hazard got the points there. So he's looking in good shape as well. I think he's already made a move or two. He's already got Aubameyang's son, who I think we're going to be talking about later. They've made, they're kind of key players, I think, for the forthcoming game weeks. David, you're up next. You got looking at 52 so far. Okay, yeah. Tell us about your game week so far.
Yeah, it's underwhelming at this point. Same reason as most people. I've captained Sané and I don't have Aguero. And, 52, I guess I'll take it for now, because obviously we've got the next game. And I fancy something out of Sané and even Richarlison, to be honest. So I think I'll probably end up with an alright score. But, as I've sort of mentioned before, sort of what my plan's been over the last couple of game weeks, it hasn't really kind of paid off the way I'd hoped, because obviously I brought in Sterling for game week 24, thinking, yes, my Man City double-up's going to absolutely smash Newcastle. That didn't work. Then I'm thinking, well, okay, fine, that's great. At least I've got the 2 guys who are definitely going to start against Arsenal, right? And then, of course, that's not true either. And the guy that I never really considered, and to be fair, I know that, I think as you were the same, Joe, you were saying, we never really considered Aguero. I'm speaking to Mark this week as well. He didn't really consider him either. We were all just kind of, well, he'll only play one game, right? I've basically picked the wrong Man City players. I mean, the thing I keep telling myself, like Luke said last week, it is a bit of a roll of the dice, especially with the Pep selection. So I mean, I'm trying. I'm not like annoyed, but it really could have gone better. And of course, the icing on the cake really is obviously David Luiz got 13 points this week, and he was someone I moved on to facilitate this move. I basically downgraded him to Bednarek so that I could upgrade someone into Sterling. So, it could have gone better, but if you're listening to this on Friday and Sané scored a hat trick, then I'm not going to be so underwhelmed anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I had a very similar game week to you. I'm 47, so just behind that. I took out Anderson, who annoyingly was incredible against Liverpool with his man of the match display, maximum bonus and assist as well, and he turned up as opposed to Sane, who I captained. I got Sigurdsson in for him. Time will tell whether Sigurdsson can match Anderson. Anderson's a player I was kind of a bit iffy about anyway. I went for Sigurdsson and Laporte as my kind of see what happens in the double game week. So Laporte got an assist. I think that's his first or second this season.
I think it's like his second attacking return,
like ever. Ever in the league. So obviously I got him in for that assist potential. I'm quite happy with that. I'm hoping he's going to play again. Let's see. I think if Everton are going to score, I think Sigurdsson hopefully will be involved there, and I think Sane is going to play. So I do have hope there as well. And a special shout out to my goalkeeper combo of Foster and Guaita, who both returned. I got the one that got marginally less points, but I'm quite happy with that, really. I don't mind that at all. Just getting a clean sheet from a goalkeeper who costs less than, or 4.5 or under these days is quite a nice feeling. So yeah, the last thing to mention is that it really was, so far it's literally been a double game week for me. My rank has doubled, so I've gone from 10,000 to 20,000. So hopefully I can get a bit nearer the 10,000 again by the end of it. So as putting your team up now, very similar to me, 46 you've got. So who was in, who was out, and what happened?
Bottom of the pile again, and another moan from me. Well, lots of moans. I sold Hazard, didn't I, for Sané? I mean, you look back on it and you think, Hazard had Huddersfield at home. What was I thinking? But I was worried about Sané this week. I thought, I wanted to do the Man City double up because I thought, one of them's probably not going to play, and then I want some Man City players who are going to start. And I had Sterling, and I thought he was probably more at risk than Sané was. So I thought I'd go for Sané. The only way I could get him was to take Hazard out. He hasn't done anything for about 5-6 weeks. Thought Chelsea just lost to Bournemouth, he'll be right. 1 goal, okay, can take that. 2 goals, 15 points, savage. And it's just one of those. It's exactly the same as last week, and we're going to talk about it later on. But just when you're sat there, you're watching football, you've got all your hopes up, you're all excited, and then you see Son scores, Hazard scores 2, Jimenez scores, Ings comes off after 26 minutes after just missing a 1-on-1. Shaw gets a clean sheet. It's on my bench. David Luiz scored. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just every player who does anything is like being punched in the face. And then Sané doesn't play. And then Sané doesn't even come on. And you just think, God, why do we do this to ourselves? why do we play this game? Shocking week. Another shocking week.
And you have a Liverpool double up as well. I've got a Liverpool triple up. So I thought, at least I've got them playing against West Ham, who have conceded 4 goals to them in the last 4 encounters with them. And what happened? None of them did anything. And
they looked so poor. So poor last night.
And the guy who's I think has been looking knackered recently. I haven't got anything against Anderson, but suddenly pulled out the bag out of nowhere. But okay, let's
that sigh sums it up.
That's the end of the Scout Card this week, guys.
That's the end.
Yeah, see you later.
Let's move on. We've got one rough and one smooth, and these are 2 people at the complete opposite end of where we are feeling at the moment. They're both in the top 10. So who is the rough that we've got?
Well, the rough is Jermaine McCopp, who was 8th in the world.
Now, here's his team up. His team up. So see if anyone can notice there's something odd about it.
Yeah, and we think we know what's gone on here. He's tried to be clever, and I know Andy does this a lot. and it's captaining a player who you know is not going to
So, so for the
then you're
podcast
biased.
version, what's he done then, Az?
Well, he's tried. What, I don't know what the polite way of saying it is, Joe. Do you have
Yes, I
engineered? We
have.
said in week.
He has. He's deliberately. We think he's deliberately captained a player that he thinks won't play at all in a double game week, so that his captaincy switches to another player who's better. In this case, Salah. He's got a vice captain, so he's captain
plan's going well.
Luca Dean, and he would then get Holebas points in. So he's got quite a good defender. I think Holebas had a good game against Brighton, and he did indeed deliver points. So we think he's done that because he thought that Luca Dean was out for 2 matches. He's not, and Baines isn't available. So Luca Dean will play. So basically what he's done, he's captain. Now, there is a term for what he's done. I can't say it on air. It's slightly naughty and rude. But he's essentially engineered it so that his opponents will be surprised when he suddenly gets loads of points added on at the very end of the game week. I might be doing him a disservice. This may have been just a crazy kind of bus team that he put together, and he couldn't get any internet.
Or one of his
access.
mates hacked his phone.
Joe, we're here slating him, but Luca Dean on set pieces at City, if he got a double-digit return,
this is why he's in. So he's in the rough at the moment, but he could end up being. So watch out for this, and anyone can see his team because he's in the top 10. So he was second. He was second overall in the entire world out of 6 million people. Second, and he's now slipped to 8th. Well, obviously, people would kill to be 8th, but so from going from second to 8th.
I'm not going in hard on him because I reckon Luca Dean 15 points. He's on my bench, so
I know. I think it could be. But there's a Smooth we should mention as well, who has moved up to 7th place. Who's that then? Az?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, Sean Tobin. You had him on Meet the Manager.
Yes.
And he's doing the hokey cokey that we love to talk about on the Scoutcast. Aguero out. Aguero in for Aubameyang.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I mean, just and then Aubameyang blanks. Aguero gets a hat trick, and then he could even look to do Aguero back to Aubameyang this week for the away match at Huddersfield, and might even get another hat trick. So.
Yeah, I'm really pleased about that because having met him on Meet the Manager, he was he's a great guy, and he knows his stuff as well, and very modest about it. And he just took a bit of a risk. Got I didn't say wasted. They used up 2 transfers for that hokey cokey, and it's completely paid off as well. And he's in a really strong position to go and win it. And also, it's a nice example. Usually, when we have an expert on some kind of video, we curse them and they do awfully ever after. So we kind of made him slightly better. Well, let's pretend it was. He's so modest anyway. We can just jump in and pretend it's us. Okay, well let's move on.
It was pretty exciting. Sorry, just it was pretty exciting in the top sort of 20 this week because there's some massive rises. I mean, the 13th in the world triple captain Aguero has gone up to 2nd.
Yeah.
Which I mean, triple captaining a player who gets a hat trick with another game to play when you're 13th. I mean, that is the stuff of dreams. Yeah. So anything could happen in that. It's so tight.
Yeah, complete game changer. Ranks halved, ranks doubled in my case. Let's move on to the community questions. There's a key player that people are talking about, and I guess to some extent his slightly more expensive midfield teammate as well. But yes, who is that, David?
Yeah, so as you said, it's Gonzalo Higuain, or the Great Gonzo, depending on who likes the Muppets. He's obviously scored 2 goals on his home debut after a bit of a nightmare actual debut at Bournemouth. So there's been a lot of interest in him anyway. Obviously, he comes here with some pedigree. A lot of talk about how he's going to work with Hazard. So yeah, absolutely understandable that he's a player that we're going to talk about. So the question from FPL, as in EL. This doesn't come from official FPL. If Chelsea progress in the FA Cup, they have the potential for offering a strong double game week captaincy option. Is Higuain the best Chelsea option now? And how impressed are we with his link up with Hazard? And I suppose this the other side of this is, does that make Hazard better? So as someone who just sold him, let's come to you on this one. Are you immediately regretting it, or happy with what you got?
I mean, I'm not regretting it going, for the next couple at least, because they've got City away and then a blank. So realistically, they're not going to hurt me too much over the next 2 weeks. I wouldn't have thought. Um, but going forwards, I mean, it's been quite easy because Chelsea have been off form and haven't looked right. Haven't really had a recognised striker. Hazard's been playing in a variety of different roles, and you're not really too sure what you're going to get with them. If they can actually start putting together, a decent run, if they can get a result against City, in the cup and at the weekend, then I think their fixtures turn quite good again after the blank. So it looks like that, combined with the fact they've got a double game week, maybe even a triple game week if our lock's in, means that I think pretty much everyone is going to be rolling with at least one Chelsea attacker till the end of the season. And in a season when there are just no strikers really that are that exciting. I mean, last week I had a front line of Rashford, Ings, and Success. I mean, that is, talk about budget. That is new level of budget, and I feel like I've upgraded that. But I've still got Rashford's still my highest striker at just over 7 million. So it would be really exciting to get a premium striker back in my team, because strikers score goals, and Higuain is a goal scorer, and I liked what I saw. But it's Huddersfield, so I'm happy to wait a few more weeks and see what happens. It's nice that they've got the blank and they've got the City game, and we can see kind of how Hazard does with that, and we can see how he got it. Because I mean, the key thing for me is it was Huddersfield, and they lost to Bournemouth. I mean, they got absolutely hammered by Bournemouth. They've shaken that off, smashed Huddersfield. What are they going to do next game? And at the moment, my team is so dodgy that I don't think I can trust a team like that. So yeah, I'll be waiting. But I think it's good news for Chelsea that they've now got a striker who can get them some goals.
Yeah, I mean the stats from that game on Higuain were encouraging in that game. He was top in that game for shots on goal. He had 6. Second best in that game was Barkley and Hazard joint on 4. He had 5 in the box again. So then Hazard was second place in that with 3. So he's comfortably above everybody else in that particular game for goal threat, which really that's what they signed him for, right? So that is good news. But yeah, I'm with you. It's Huddersfield. So to be honest, you kind of want to see a little bit more, and I think we can get away with not piling in right straight away, because as you mentioned, fixtures for them next 2. You signing a Chelsea player for Man City away just feels either brave or stupid. Take your pick. Then obviously the blank as well. But yeah, then after that, I mean, we've already started making a list of some people that we want for the season running. Like a lot of people are talking about Pereira at Leicester. We want to have Son, for example. And yeah, I think penciling in a Chelsea attacker, whether or not that's Higuain or Hazard, depending on what else we need to do, I think that that could be the way to go. But there's still a lot left to happen. I mean, what do you think, Joe? What's these Hazard and Higuain on your?
Yeah, I'm very interested, and happy to wait as well, because the fixtures are have fallen quite nicely for a patient manager like me. So I'm interested in Higuain. I'm very interested in David Luiz. In fact, David Luiz is probably my top Chelsea target. Sheer value, and he's got attacking returns and clean sheet potential, and possibly Hazard, because I actually think there's quite an abundance of striking options this season. So I mean, currently I've got Jimenez and Rashford and Firmino. I'm going to keep Firmino for Bournemouth at home and then move him on for Aubameyang. That's the plan. So then I've got 3 there. So still no room for Higuain there. So it might be depending on how it falls. It might be that the only place I've got for a Chelsea attacker during double game weeks would be going for Hazard. It may be that I move Aubameyang on. I think the thing I've got to look at really is start thinking in terms of chip strategy and the forthcoming blanks and the double game weeks. And I answered one of the questions on this in the big question article we did on Fantasy Football Scout, and I was just basically saying at the moment all you can do is be flexible, get players in that you definitely know are going to play in game week 31, but also keep in mind the others as well, and don't ignore players because they're good. Last season I suffered from keeping hold of players and ignoring players based around a blank game week, and in the end I think it was Salah was basically scored virtually all my points that week. He scored about 4 or 5, I can't remember, countless goals that week as well. So for me, I'm not sure at the moment, because I don't know where the fixtures are going to fall, whether I would be looking to use a free hit chip to cover me in a blank game week, in which case I can stock up, or use that during the double game week, in which case I can focus much more on those blank team players. I don't know at the moment, but I'm just keeping an open mind. What I do know is the way the fixtures fall, though. So the fixtures fall very nicely between Cardiff and Arsenal. So I'm looking to get Aubameyang in game week 27 and 28. I'm obviously happy to keep him, but I'm also happy to move him on because he has Tottenham and Manchester United next. By happy coincidence, when Arsenal have Tottenham and Manchester United, Chelsea have Fulham away and Wolves at home, which is nice. And then they also have Everton and Cardiff, while Arsenal have Wolves and Newcastle. So both of them, there could be a blank fixture there. So Chelsea might not have Everton then, but then they will get a double fixture 32, which looks great. So I don't know, just got to. It's basically just kind of keeping an eye on that. So it's going to be game week 27. Before that, I think we'll have much more detailed knowledge about the blanks and the doubles. So waiting for that really. But yeah, I'm impressed at the moment. I think if Hazard and Higuain can link up like that, and we get a chance to see, because basically Huddersfield are awful. Yeah. They're a championship side now, officially, really. And so we need to see what they're like against better teams. And there's some tough tests for Chelsea coming up the next few games. So good chance to see.
I think Hazard's always been frustrating because you watch him and he plays absolutely incredibly, and then he gets the ball and he dribbles past about 10 players and he lays the ball off. And then no one around him is any good because they've got Willian there on the ball on the end of it, and then he'll miss it, and then everyone will go, "Oh, Hazard should have shot." And that's been the story for Hazard I know obviously Hazard's got loads of goals and loads of assists and things, but he's never really been that really ruthless player for me that you can captain week in, week out and always be sure he's going to get returns. Everyone talks about Hazard, the kind of troll that he is. And what I like about Higuain is just a goal scorer. Like they are going to be playing to set Higuain up for as many chances as they can, and he will convert them. So I love Hazard. I think Hazard is, incredible player on penalties, which is fantastic, and clearly like the talisman of the team. But I'm thinking for $1.5 million less to have Higuain there, not taking up a midfield slot when there's loads of midfielders doing well, and just going to be, if he just nails down that spot, gets a load of goals over the next few weeks, then I think he is a better option than Hazard if you're not going to double up.
Yeah, no. I think so. He gives that, as you said, it's that flexibility. Because at the moment, I'm thinking, right, Chelsea attack. If I want to get into that, it's Hazard. And the thing about Hazard, I think he's a player that you either just get in forever, all 38 game weeks, because he'll finish as one of the top 2 or 3 scoring players. But you need to have him all of that time, really. I think we've temporarily lost David there in a minute, but we'll muddle on. I think he's back. That's good.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. You sell him. It doesn't matter if you sell Hazard before City away, he'll score a brace. If you sell Hazard before Huddersfield at home, he'll score a brace. There's no. You can't sell him. You're right. You just got to keep him.
You've got to keep him because he's going to get those points, or you just ignore him. And to be honest, although I've had a tricky game week, I've done all right ignoring him, because I haven't had the temptation to captain him. Instead, I've captained Salah, and that's helped a lot as well. And also, he's an annoying price as well, and it's meant that I could look at other players as well. And one of the things that's happened when I've done badly in seasons past is I've focused too much of my money in too little players, and I've spread it out much more since then. And I think that's really helped. And you've got to make a sacrifice. And Hazard's been the guy I haven't really turned to that much this season because of it. But if I had him, I wouldn't let him go. Just keep him forever, because he will get those returns.
5 weeks though, 5 weeks, nothing.
It's a long time to wait for someone.
11 million.
Yeah, but I think for me that kind of just opens up the second part of the question. I mean, obviously we all feel like we want to have at least one of them, and actually I think I'm with you as I think I'd probably rather have Higuain, but of course lots got to happen. But if we get into chip season, do you feel comfortable triple captaining Hazard? Based on his track record of just disappointing when...
Do you know what? I would. And that's the bizarre thing. All of what I've just said. Because he'll play. He will play both games. And if he's with Higuain, I think he'll get returns. And I don't know. I'm much more happier captaining Pogba, Hazard, these nailed-on players. But what this double game week has showed us with City is that, and
it's a gamble.
It is a gamble. I am definitely put off before, and that's why I didn't use my triple captaincy.
Same.
But it's a good time to turn to Man City, because this is the kind of key team people have been talking about. Not just in terms of them, but also perhaps should we be getting rid of their players, even though some of them, Aguero in particular, has been doing well. So we've had some questions here. Ben Ray and many others who did the hokey with Aubameyang and Aguero. And so should those with Aguero hold on to Aguero, even though he has a blank coming up and a potentially tough game? Or should we be looking at Aubameyang straight back in for his away game at Huddersfield and those other two we already mentioned? Cameras, is it time to dump City players for Arsenal assets? So he's looking at that as well. So obviously Laporte comes into the equation there, and anyone else who's got another City defender, because Kolasinac is looking good as well, fixture wise and attacking wise. Kings of Leon, Man City are a minefield around double game weeks. This touched on what I just mentioned. Really, is it best to just avoid their midfield? And is Aguero the one to get for future double game weeks? Is he actually nailed? Will he? Many people might be seeing this after the Everton game, so we don't know. But if he plays and starts and plays significant minutes in that game, well, perhaps Aguero is the one to turn to. And if we dump a Man City option, where else should we go to? Says G Dean 491. He mentions Leicester there, and Murty one. He mentions Son, who is a player I definitely have my eye on to replace a Man City asset with. We'll come to you, David, first. So, what's your thinking around Man City? You've got Sterling and Sane. Are you looking to dump one, both? What's happening with them?
So, I mean, the current plan for me is to dump probably Sterling for game week 26. Although, I mean, we'll sort of see what happens on Wednesday if Sane gets injured or something. But Sterling currently the one to go so that I can get Son, because that to me that's like an obvious move. I've seen Sterling get benched enough times this season to know that I don't want to be investing that. But, I mean, if we're talking about security of starts, I mean, Sterling versus Hazard, for example, is kind of like, if you did it just on the starts, it's a no-brainer. So, that for me has to be part of what forces the decision. Obviously, Son is obviously a completely nailed-on starter when there's no Kane and Ali. Seems to be relishing being the main man. Just Son and Sterling are just completely different FPL assets in my mind. One is, too expensively priced in my opinion. I know I own him currently, but that was just for the double game week. For someone who doesn't necessarily start every week. But Son 8.6, 8.7, whatever he's at this moment, completely nailed on. But it's like he is basically a talisman at this point because he's just always scoring, and he's just Poch is just he's his main man right now. I think since game week 13 in games that he's started, I think he's averaging something like 8.8 points per game. It's just utterly ridiculous. And after all that worry that the Asia Cup was going to keep him away, he missed one Premier League game. It's just crazy. So if someone had held him for that entire run, I mean, they'd be doing incredible. So I mean, and I can't see any reason for it to end because he's still his shot count is still fairly good. I mean, the Newcastle game he got a little bit lucky because obviously Dubravka fumbled it and let it in, but just generally speaking, I can't see anything that's going to let that up. And it's just peace of mind, really. That's an obvious move. Sterling out for him just makes so much sense, especially as he seems to be the new main man. Maybe Sterling will pop up with some more double-figure hauls, but you're always going to be worried about the team sheet, whereas you won't be that way with Son until at least Kane and Ali are back. So that for me is an easy one. Past that, obviously, I would then still have Sané for the blank, and I'm undecided. I think probably what I'll actually do is downgrade Sané into a 4.5 so that I can upgrade Barnes into Aubameyang. Because again, that's a similar thing. I mean, with that game week has shown when the fixtures get busy for Man City, then not even Sané is safe in terms of a start. Even if Mendy's not fit, he's still not safe because I think he basically played Sterling on the left. There's so many options there, and you've got to imagine that in the next couple of months it's going to get pretty busy for Man City because you'd back them to go pretty far in the FA Cup, you'd back them to go fairly far in the Champions League, so they're going to have a lot of fixtures over the next couple of months, and actually pinning one Man City player down is going to be quite difficult. The only thing, just to say on Aguero, I obviously am guilty of not considering him because I thought he might get rotated with Jesus, but he's actually started 6 of the last 7, which is a hell of a lot for someone who's apparently getting rotated with Jesus. So it's definitely something that I overlooked. So if that sort of trend continues, then maybe Aguero is the one to go. But yeah, I think just on the question about is the Man City midfield a bit of a minefield, last couple of months, I'd say no, because we had Sané. But once those fixtures pile on, I just don't think you can trust it at all. And going with it's kind of a bit like the Hazard thing. If you ignore him, and if he's getting sporadic calls, then that's all right. But if you're involved, it makes it more frustrating. And then every week you're thinking, oh, should I sell him? Should I captain him? Well, what should I do? And I just can't be dealing with that. Those two options that I want long term, Son and Aubameyang, I don't have that worry with them to the same extent because they're more likely to play. With Arsenal's fixtures, I think Aubameyang will do well because a lot of them are at home. So that seems like the obvious move for me. When we know more about their selection.
What do you think? Obviously, lots of questions there. You've got Sané and Sterling too, but also which if any are going, and who have you got your eye on to bring in?
Well, I kind of agree with David. I agree with most of what he said. Everything on the Son point for sure. I mean, I think Son is pretty much he's just a player that everyone should have and probably should have got in as soon as he went out of the Asian Cup. My worry was, you had Pochettino saying he was going to maybe bench him for one of those matches, give him a rest. Everyone reporting that he's absolutely knackered, and then plays him in both games. And of course, he gets two double-digit returns, which is just shows how amazing he is. I mean, I think the next 2 weeks will test a lot of people's resolve because I think if you're like me, you need to kind of use this time to, just get some players in who are going to do. I mean, you've got City and Chelsea, who are and Everton. So there's lots of people who've got Richarlison, Sané, Sterling, Hazard, all these players. And where I am in the rankings, I mean, I'm playing against people who probably don't even check their team, like probably or end up making their transfers at last minute because they've forgotten to do it. So I'm hoping that by kind of shipping out a lot of these players, I can get a bit of advantage on people. I'm very, very reluctant to sell Sterling, and I've already sold Sané. To me, that was just quite an easy move, Sané to Son. I mean, talk about Sterling's minutes. He's started 9 of the last 10 games for City, and to me, I still think he's City's most important player because he's just Guardiola's child who he's moulded into this kind of sort of perfect player for what he does. And I think him and Bernardo Silva and obviously De Bruyne, those 3 players are so important to the way City are playing at the moment. And I just don't think Sterling can kind of be dropped. And I'm kicking myself because I thought this earlier before this week started, and I ended up getting Sané because I was worried about the ownership and everything like that. But the more I think about it, the more I think I'm just going to keep Sterling until the end of the season. He's 30 points behind Salah. I wonder if he can close that gap and actually make good on my prediction of ages ago that he'll be the top point scorer, because I think City are going to turn over a lot of teams. I know they lost to Newcastle quite recently, but I think they're really putting the pressure on Liverpool now. And if Liverpool are going to start buckling, City are going to jump on that, I think. So yeah, I wouldn't be selling Sterling, but Aubameyang is a player that I really, really want and cannot get in. And I'm actually really jealous for everyone with Aguero, because to me, that move, Aguero to Aubameyang for 2 weeks at least, Huddersfield away, Southampton at home, that is, I love Aguero. Aubameyang will outscore Aguero over the next 2 weeks. Surely that's just, even if it's for a hit, I mean, he'll outscore Aguero by 4 points.
See, I'm kind of got a positive and a negative about Aguero. And I actually think if I had Aguero in at the moment with a home game coming up against Chelsea, I think I'd actually be tempted to keep him. And one of the reasons is about getting those top returns. And so if you look at his double-digit hauls, he's had 3 this season, and they're all at home, and he's got a home game coming up. I don't think Chelsea will particularly scare him. I think he'll get returns there. Aubameyang has had 5 double-digit returns this season, but only 1 of those has come away from home. So he's up against Huddersfield away, whereas I like Aubameyang for 27-28, definitely. I think the home games look great for Aubameyang. I don't bandy the word essential around a lot, but I think he is actually in game week 27 because he's so strong at home. And he looks just the best captaincy shout that week with with Liverpool and Manchester United having tough games against each other. So, and of course Chelsea not in the equation, or City as well. So that's my thought. I'd actually, if I was a hokey cokier, I'd be tempted to just stop and then to put the left leg in and left leg and all that afterwards. But that brings me to the negative, really. So I mentioned Aubameyang has had 5 double-digit hauls. Aguero's had 3. So it's like, take a step back here. And I was thinking, why didn't I get Aguero in? For me, it wasn't necessarily that I thought he'd only play one game. Any City player can only play one game. We don't know about that. We can't second guess that. I didn't get Aguero in because he'd only got 2 double-digit hauls previously. Out of, what are we up to now? Coming up to game week. So out of 24 game weeks, he's only got 10 points or more twice. See, that for me wasn't. It's funny to say that now after he's just scored a hat-trick. But that's with hindsight. Going into that, Sane had 5 double-digit hauls. And Aguero's last double-digit haul was game week 11. And Sane had 5 double-digit hauls, all since game week 11. So the guy to captain, in terms of form, who's going to get a mega score, going into that, was Sane. But obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing. And people go, sour grapes mentioning his double-digit hauls, really, pal. But that's the thing. That's the information we go into that.
Well, for me, it was the minutes. I mean, Guardiola wasn't even trusting Aguero earlier in the season when they were playing, a game a week. He was taking him off at 60 minutes, 65 minutes. And I thought, well, with double game week, surely... I mean, I still don't think... Do you think he'll start against Everton?
I don't think he will.
I'd be quite surprised.
Chelsea a few days later, so play Jesus makes total sense.
And he hasn't won any double-digit hauls away from home. So... Yeah. Even if he does play...
If you own Aguero, it doesn't actually matter now that he doesn't play against Everton. I mean, that's the funny thing is actually... Even though I still maintain that ignoring Aguero for this game was the right decision on paper, for all the reasons you just mentioned, Joe, it actually doesn't matter now if we're all right and he doesn't play against Everton, because if you got a hat-trick captain, who cares? I mean, if someone, I think it was James Egglesworth who puts double game weeks into context really nicely, and he says it's not necessarily an opportunity for you to get goals in both games. You're just increasing the possibility that your captain or whoever you've signed will score because they've got 180 minutes instead of 90. So Aguero, that's come off. It doesn't matter now. It literally does not matter if he doesn't play.
Just on that, I mean, Andy is sitting there with Sané triple captain, Aguero vice.
I bet he's hoping for that injury now.
See, our Rock with the Smooths next week will be epic if some of those pay off. I just want to talk about
Sané 1 minute cameo.
I just want to talk about Sane for a moment, because I am actually going to remove him because he's got Chelsea coming up. And then nothing. So he's only got that one fixture. I think Son looks like a much better prospect the next two, and I think for me that's quite an easy swap. It means at the moment I could swap Firmino to Aubameyang, but as for those reasons I've said, I actually people are down on Firmino at the moment, but I'm going to stick with him for one more game at home to Bournemouth, and then move him on. But I would have to move at the moment. I can just do that move, Aubameyang and Firmino, but I'd like. By swapping Sane, that gives me that I don't have to rush into a move. I can wait a little bit. So Sane as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to get him back in. I may well do, but I just think, is he more prone to rotation? Well, he's only had one benching in the last 12. Before that, I don't know. There's doubts there. I don't see him as captainable as well. Once a player gets to about 9 million and they're not captainable at all, then I start to think elsewhere as well. The next double game week for City, so it could be Manchester United and Fulham away, game week 32. So I don't think I'd maybe go there for the captaincy. I don't know, it depends on the other teams. But I suspect that if Aubameyang, Rashford, Pogba, Higuain, Hazard, if all of these much more nailed on players have got a fixture, then I think I'd probably be going on there. And just to final mention, Laporte, I just think I'm tempted to take a hit at some point in the next 2 weeks, just get Luiz in for Laporte. I just think he's an absolute top target, and Pereira as well. I just think it's a great option as well.
You're not going to get Luiz in for a hit over the next 3 weeks, are you?
After game week 27, if
they've got Spurs at home, haven't they?
Let's have a look at the fixtures.
Yeah, Fulham away after that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Maybe
sorry, it's game week 29. Sorry, not 27.
Yeah, 29. Yeah.
Game week 29, they're Fulham away. I mean, hopefully I won't need to take a hit. I would just better get him in anyway. But I think for Fulham away, Wolves at home, potentially Everton, and Cardiff away, I think they're really good fixtures. And as I said, it depends on where I'm going to use my free hit chip. It's too complicated at the moment for my tiny brain, so I need some certainty from those fixtures to be able to work it out properly. But David Luiz and Leicester's Pereira.
Well, you're already planning a hit for David Luiz. I mean,
no. I'm saying I don't want. He's a player I want, and I think he's worth a hit. But I don't. Hopefully, I won't need to. I mean, I've only taken.
How are you beating me by 370,000 places, Joe?
Well, because I've only taken three or four hits this season, so I don't bandy these hits around,
why.
and I only use them if I think I'm going to get really good value long term for a player.
Yeah.
And I think David Luiz is someone I probably want for the duration. Really, he's got everything.
The people that made the switch from Alonso to Luiz did really well there.
I missed out on
until
that,
they then ditched David Luiz for Bednarak, but okay, that was me.
Yeah, so I mean, well, hopefully, but yeah, I'm not averse to taking the odd hit. Definitely, if it's and at the moment, David Luiz is capable of double-digit hauls, 15 points.
You won't take a hit for David Luiz.
And he wildcarded specifically for Ryan Fraser, so you never.
I love
very good point.
I'm the guy that said that wildcarded to get Ryan Fraser. So
you're a maverick, Joe.
And that did. Yeah, people don't recognise that, mate.
Understated maverick.
Let's move on to our talking point. So we're looking at being a fantasy manager and how it affects our mental health. And how we cope with a bad game week. I put something up on Twitter on this and had a huge amount of response, about 70 responses from people. And so, Az, do you want to kind of introduce this section?
Yeah, I mean, I like that you've given me this section. And for me personally, it does definitely affect my mental health this game. And I mean, it's even more ridiculous when you think about what you're getting, upset about, and it's a game of a game. It's something that you have absolutely no control about. I can't control Sané being benched. I can't control Son scoring the last minute goal. All these things that are just completely out of my control. And yet I still allow myself every week to get completely beaten down, completely blame myself. Look back with hindsight and say, I should have done this, should have done that, and take it really hard. So you had loads of responses about this, which really kind of mirror what I've been going through, particularly this season. I mean, my worst finish before this season was around 370,000, and that was years and years ago before I was really kind of really into it and then writing for the site and things. So that season didn't affect me at all. And since then, it's been kind of all right. So I haven't really had to deal with it. But this season has been really hard. So Andrea Sharvin says, what happened last night? Aguero's haul and Sané's no-show. I still can't get out of my head in every activity I'm doing today. And I just completely get that. I some days I wake up, I'm eating breakfast, I'm thinking about Aguero's hat-trick and thinking, if I just thought about it a little bit more and I would have got him, and then I'd be back up to 200,000, and then I'd be really happy right now. And you just can't. I mean, Tally Beaver, to make up for it, makes rage transfers, and he's taken 92 points worth of hits so far this season. I mean,
he's actually the top 50,000.
Is it? Oh God!
So
that's what I needed to do.
It's almost working.
Yeah. FPLL says I struggled to sleep last night after Aguero's hat-trick. I've been there, lying in bed thinking about these things and not being able to sleep, and then it affects you the next day because then you're tired and you've been thinking all night about FPL. It's a crazy game. Joe Lancaster says, I was depressed yesterday. My girlfriend came home and she asked what was wrong. I didn't have the heart to tell her I was in a mood because of FPL, so I lied and said there was a big family row, which was fine until she started asking details. Luckily, my girlfriend is very understanding and knows what I go through, so I don't have to lie about big family rows. But I can see why you would, because
I've actually been in that exact situation last season. It took me ages to admit that I was upset about FPL, because my big worry was that my wife would basically make me stop playing. And that's not to say that she's someone who makes me do anything. She's not like that. But it was just worried that she was going to try and tackle it in a way that didn't understand just how important FPL is to me, And And yeah, because you feel embarrassed because, like, being honest, like most people's girlfriends and wives, they just don't get it, and with good reason, because like you said at the top, it's a game within a game. So I get why they don't get it. Thankfully, in the end, you know, I owned up effectively. I still felt like a kid who'd wet himself when I did, but you know,
I think the problem is that, like, I think it has such an effect on my mood that
yeah, I mean, it was the same for me last season.
It runs the risk of affecting relationships for me, and it runs the risk of affecting. It almost is like a kind of addiction. I do sometimes genuinely feel like it is an addiction. The amount of time I spend, the amount of stats I read, the amount of time that I invest, you know, mentally and emotionally into this game. If I don't get rewarded for it, then it genuinely affects me. And when it reaches the point when, you know, your whole evening, like, you know, last week I was you know, watching the matches 8 o'clock, and from 8 o'clock until probably about 11 o'clock I was just a zombie. I was just sat there, didn't say anything to my girlfriend, just sat there watching these things, getting more and more angry that goals are going in that weren't my players. And I think that's probably one of the first times that I really thought about just literally just turning the TV off and just being like, I'm just done with this for, you know, not forever, but, you know, I'm done with this. I need just to step back and just not do anything with this. But it is so hard to do, and especially because the game itself is, you know, because it is almost kind of a trivial thing. You kind of always do downplay its effect, because if you tell anyone about it, they're always just like, mate, it's fantasy football. Like, come on, you can't genuinely be depressed about fantasy football. There's so many more important things going on in the world, and of course there is. But I think when you invest as much time in it as we do, and you're in kind of in the public eye, like we are, giving advice out to people, and, you know, within my friendship group, I'm the one that people turn to give advice to and stuff. And you kind of think, well, if I'm not any good at this, then yeah, what else aren't I good at? And that does kind of play on your mind. So yeah, it's tough. I'm finding it tough this year.
Yeah, we've had some of the comments as well on that subject, really, about looking at being a fantasy manager and versus real life, really. So James Sparks was saying the time, you know, he spends checking scores and assists on a Saturday detracts from his family time, and he's, you know, often the get off your phone conversations. I'm sure that's something that echoes with lots of people. You know, why are you on your phone all the time? I must admit, I get that a bit as well. I say, what are you doing? What are you checking all the time? And why are you muttering? Who got the assist? And Richard Brooke, he gets stressed when he has a bad game week. But this is good. So this is where you start to, I think it's the process of coming round as well, of putting it into perspective, of, you know, accepting that it's a hobby that we enjoy, not to belittle it, but at the same time realise there are important things. So Richard Brooks says he gets stressed when he has a bad game week. Then he looks at his 4-year-old and realises there are more important things in life, and of course there are. FPL Tim says being totally immersed in the game when it feels like wading through mud is totally stressful. God, that's such a great phrase there. I've really, you know, been there, definitely. And he's sometimes you have to, you know, take a step backwards from the game as well, trying not to be so immersed in it. And Ben McNair says something. Now, Ben McNair is a well-known figure in the fantasy football community on Twitter, and you know, very you know, someone people turn to advice, and something that we might echo as well. What's really dangerous is when you make being a good FPL player part of your identity, and it crushes you. So yes, if you do make it part of your identity, whether it's just amongst friends, and then it just goes wrong, you know, it can be quite crushing. And Death Star FPL says, remember, it's a game, but I'm not less of a person because I didn't pick Aguero this week. And it's just about putting that into perspective, isn't it, really? Is that something
I think because you kind of put yourself in circles where all anyone talks about is fantasy football. You can't go and say, oh, I had a really good day at work today. You know, I nailed this presentation and, you know, got my company loads of money, whatever. Because who's going to care? The only thing that does kind of your whole status on Twitter, on Fantasy Scout, on this podcast is all to do with how well you're doing at fantasy football. And the identity thing is important, because that is the kind of identity that we've all built for ourselves over many years. So it's only natural to take it seriously and to be affected by it, I think.
Yeah. I think that last one about the bit about I'm not less of a person because I didn't pick Aguero this week. I think that to me is the crux of it. I mean, I basically since I was like 6, I've just been ridiculously competitive about anything to the point that I'm basically really rude if I don't win everything. So, I've spent a long time in my life just kind of researching how on earth you just stop being such a sore loser. And, I've and this is just outside FPL. So, it's a general idea that you could filter into FPL as well. Is that, it's exactly that line. It's, what you're doing on FPL, that doesn't define you. And, it's one of these things where if you can tell yourself that, because it's about perception as well, you're assuming that other people are thinking less of you because you didn't pick Aguero. And that might be the case for some people. And if you are a kind of person who thinks less of another human being because they didn't pick Aguero, then I ain't got time for you. But but not everybody thinks that way. Most people don't think that way. And we've got into the situation that we're in as an example because for various reasons. And people know that we're not less of a person because we didn't pick Aguero. And you've just got to keep on telling yourself that other people don't think any less of you. So it's the same for anything else, whether or not you're playing actual football, if you're playing board games, you're playing card games. If you're not winning, it doesn't mean that everyone's going, oh, wow, David sucks at this, because they're probably not. And you just have to, if you keep telling yourself that, eventually you come to a point where you understand that people's perception of you isn't based solely around how you're doing at a game. And that's
you're now the honorary fantasy football counsellor. I think.
I'm happy to help.
Another theme that was brought up wasn't it, was that it's basically what helps is that it is a game where there is an element of luck to it. There is an element of skill, there is an element of luck, and you can't do anything about that. So as there was some comments around not being able to beat luck, weren't there?
Yeah. So the positive side of it.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So I guess it's accepting that there's luck involved as well.
So it's not completely in your control.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah, and that's what Stats said to you. Ron Manager says if you accept you can't have all the good players and you can't have all the high scoring players, it helps. There's no point getting emotional about things that you have no control over.
That's really key.
Drew Top says it's a dangerous situation. People's identity and perception of self-worth are linked so closely they have no control over. So again, that, to bring it back to the gambling analogy, is almost a similar kind of almost a similar kind of thing, because you are kind of rolling the dice and a lot of stuff that you do. So with poker, you can build up strategies, you can give yourself the best possible chance of winning games, but like FPL, if you get rubbish cards every hand, you're not gonna win, are you? And that's what Jason Jones says. It's a little bit like gambling, about the financial risks. He says when the fun stops, stop. Which I mean, can you imagine the the snowflake cry if they started putting when the fun stops, stop on FPL?
Yeah,
I think that would really
But I've seen some people do that. Say I want to quit, and I don't think man up or woman up. Whoever's saying it, I don't think that at all. I think if you feel that way, quit, definitely move on, because there's I've seen that some people, I'm going to quit, definitely, this is the end, see you all later, folks, and then 2 weeks later they're back on and they're back into it again.
Well, there's people within the within our community that have quit. I mean, Mark hasn't quit, but obviously he's taken a step back from things for reasons kind of like this, being in the spotlight, having it affecting his kind of daily life. I mean, we had in the mods and cons group, we've got Still a Ghost, haven't we? He doesn't do FPL anymore. He just sets up his team at the start of the season and just kind of sees how it goes through the rest. Similar kind of reason. And there was someone else on Twitter, I remember, just said halfway through the season that it was just. I think he was a good player as well.
I think it was Bowstring the Carp.
Yeah, that's it.
He's back. He's back now. So
he's back.
Well, but I think this sort of idea, I think it can still. I think you can. I mean, because a lot of people go, "Oh, I'll never quit," regardless of how bad it goes. But I think there's still a principle there that's worth looking into, and it's basically compartmentalizing your FPL experience. And I mean, I can only speak from my personal experience, and I admit it's kind of slightly easy for me because on a Saturday I'm working it. So then anything that's annoying frustrates me. Oh, that's annoying that this goal's gone in or this hasn't gone in or I've lost my clean sheet here, because it is my job and I can shut it down when it gets to 8:30, whenever I finish on a Saturday. I can put it all in a box and then I'll go and have my evening with my wife or my kids or whatever. I mean, that's not exactly always easy for everyone else to do if Saturday's a day off, for example. But I think, for example, like the general will sometimes do the match of the day challenge, and what he does is he just turns his phone off and he just leaves it, and he enjoys Saturday with his wife or his family or whatever, and then he basically just boxes all of that anguish and anxiety into the match of the day, and then when that's off, he goes to bed. And then maybe that there might still be things lingering over, but if you can put it all in a box and say, this is when I'm going to get angry at FPL, and you schedule it a bit more. I don't know. And in that sense, what you're doing is you're quitting from this idea that you're always looking at it and always investing time. I mean, obviously, you still want to invest time in preparing for your team, but in terms of experiencing the football over a weekend, I think the general, it doesn't do it every week. He does it a fair few times because for him, it works for him on a kind of.
I think it's also that in general is a good thing to do anyway. Even if this is for people, well, obviously people are going to be into fantasy football if they're listening to this, but just in general in life. So one thing I do when I go, when we go on the family holiday during the summer, I don't have my phone on. I don't do anything to do with Facebook, whatever, Twitter, nothing. And it's great. It's really quite liberating, and it also I find I can start seeing things properly again, like literally, because I'm not looking at a tiny screen trying to find out who assisted someone, and it's quite a liberating thing to do anyway. But that's more to do with the growth of social media and its impact on our life. I mean, one of the things, I've thought about this a lot over the years, because I've been doing this a long time, and also been, I guess, doing this as well. I've had to come on a Scoutcast every week, and I've had to write articles and, explain my good and bad game week for years now. So with anything, you invest lots of time and headspace in. When it goes wrong, it can be quite crushing, but when it goes right, it can be hugely rewarding. There is a lot of positive mental health you can get from a hobby like this, but it can be difficult to attach FPL decision making with real life decision making. I think that's important. What Dave was talking about, compartmentalizing things, I think that's really useful. One thing you think in the back of your mind, I used to think, it's like, oh my god, if I got this decision so terribly wrong in FPL, what else am I getting wrong in my life? And that's a horrible, dangerous way to go. And it starts making you question everything, and once you start going down that route, you've really got to address that. I didn't address it by quitting, I just addressed it by repeating what I've just said then, and realizing that's just not a good attitude to have. I've been separating them. The other thing that's really helped me tackle a bad game week is trying to get it through with humour and seeing the silly aspect of fantasy manager and also football in general. So the first live football match I ever went to see was at the Goldstone, and it was Brighton against Tranmere. The game had to be stopped because there was too many toilet rolls being chucked on the pitch, and there was a streaker as well, and we lost. But it was marvellous. I was hooked. And I can't remember much about the game, but I remember all the things I've just told you, because it's silly, and all the stupid chants. When you've never been to a football match before, the chants that people do are hilarious. You don't see it on TV, and when you're a kid and you see it for the first time, it's amazing. So basically, a lot of the time, I much prefer to listen to something like, say, Peter Crouch's podcast, or the Atletico Mints podcast, Bob Mortimer and Andy Lawson's one. If no one's heard that, and you have a vague liking for Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer, do listen to that. It's incredibly silly and bizarrely all about football as well, and it will make you feel better and laugh. And another person I just wanted to mention as well is someone called FPL Partridge. If you're feeling down about your game week, chances are lots of other people are as well. Start following FPL Partridge and just enjoy his tweets. So here's a still from one of he did one of these downfall memes, which was the Hitler thinking he was going to have a great game week. He didn't bother with Aguero, and suddenly realising, and the whole thing's really funny. And
if you haven't seen that video, like, you've got to see it. I was cracking up.
I cracked out, and everyone else, and it's been shared and it's been retweeted loads of times, and it was actually a piece of counselling, really, for a lot of people. And it sounds crazy saying that about counselling, but it's important that we have this chat.
It's a medicine. I'm not going to try and wheel out some kind of saying, because I can't remember what it is, but laughter really does help. And because I was the same, I was a bit annoyed that I didn't go for Aguero, But then I watched that video and I was just in stitches. And then once you get to that, it's like you've enjoyed an experience about something you were previously annoyed about, and then it's so much easier to move on with it. So.
I think a problem, it's a problem with FPL, and it's a problem with life in general, is that social media is very much about painting the best picture of yourself.
Yeah, that's
and what FPL Partridge does is he's not afraid to take the mick out of himself, what he's doing, his own team. And that video is all about how he didn't bring Aguero in, how it's ruined his season. And, when you go onto Twitter and you've had a bad time, you're seeing everyone posting their perfect scores and everything. It's exactly like going onto Instagram and seeing pictures of perfect families, perfect holidays, perfect everything. It's not necessarily a true reflection of what's going on. And the Twitter community is such a small community when you think about how many people actually play the game. So, yeah, I think I think FPL is quite a good reflection on a lot of like society in general. Because we're going to talk about some of the positives of playing it. I love the game, and one of the main things I love about playing fantasy football is the people I've met. Over the last few years, especially as I've got kind of more involved in the community. So I run a cash league. We have a meet-up every year. I'm at a bar. We'll all get absolutely wasted and watch football. And it's brilliant. And like some actual friendships are formed from that. People meet up, outside of the group, and that kind of thing's brilliant. You get the odd on Twitter, like everywhere. You get the odd person who's always gonna, you get the trolls, you get the people, just out there to bring people down. But on the whole, it is a game, and people want to enjoy it. People want to have fun and support each other and laugh at each other and boast about when they're doing well. And that side of it is fantastic. I think.
Yeah, we had there's a couple of comments, weren't there, about that kind of FPL being positive for your mental health in some way.
So FPL Audit says that he'd recently taken some extended time away from work due to mental health problems, and he finds FPL in the community is a place of solace and positivity. And for a Twitter community, it's surprisingly supportive, and it is. I agree with that. You get the bad eggs, but vast majority of people are people who are just out to make friends and chat football and talk stats and all the geeky things that we kind of love. Lone Wolf says FPL's been a blessing in disguise. After a tough divorce, I'm certain FPL's helped me greatly in getting my mind off the harsh realities of life when needed. So in that way, it's kind of the opposite. I was talking about how a kind of a trivial thing becomes really almost too important, but in his mind, the really important thing has, it's been allowed to be made seem more trivial by playing the game. So I think that's great.
Yeah, no, I just think it's important with all of these things to talk about it, and there's a lot of women that play FPL, but predominantly there's a lot of men, and men are really bad at talking about these things. So the very fact that we're even doing that now is a good thing. But I think that the FPL community can be a place of great solace, and as I said, with people like FPL Partridge, there's people there who can make you feel better as well, and I think that's a good thing. And I just wanted to touch on one thing really, is about I guess it's just looking at that. What we're talking about here can apply to anything really. It's not just about fantasy management. If you're feeling down about something, or you're becoming obsessed about something, or you're just feeling that you need to question something, it's really important that you talk about it and kind of get it out there. Don't bottle it up and things.
And actually, we've just had a post. So Billy Pigeon 23 has just posted saying if things do get bad, the Calm helpline is always there. 0800 585858, open daily, 5 p.m. till midnight, free, anonymous and confidential.
And there'll be some people out there to talk about. And there'll be some people saying, what are these guys talking about? It's fantasy football, and they're talking about these serious things.
I know.
But until you play fantasy football for a number of years and you compete with people in your mini leagues and you chat about it, you don't quite know that some of the things we talk about will resonate with a hell of a lot of people. Yeah. And I'm personally really glad that we've had this discussion. But time to move on to Game Week 26. Take all of that positive energy and put that into Game Week 26.
I feel like a new man.
So it's a weight.
So I feel like we can move positively into this next set of fixtures, and how are we shaping up with differentials and clean sheets?
Yeah, I mean, pretty good. Clean sheet wise, actually, I don't think my spreadsheet's been updated. and I think I might have to sack FPL Fairy.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Maybe he didn't know there was one today because we're still the game
what
week.
we can do, we can get you out of this by saying that the game week isn't over yet, and we can pay mention to that in the next Scoutcast. But hopefully, you might have a list of who we're picking this week, or you can at least ask us.
Yeah, well, I'll ask. Yeah, to be fair, he probably hasn't updated it because the game week isn't finished. It wouldn't make any sense to him. So maybe I'll let him off with a warning.
Yeah.
Strict.
Well, let's do the clean sheets first. David, who are you going for?
So I probably would have gone for Liverpool, but I wasn't first. But I'll try not to complain. I've gone with Wolves. They haven't kept too many clean sheets, but it's home against Newcastle, and Newcastle just struck me as the kind of team that will probably even sit back in that game because they know what Wolves are capable of. And just can't really see much in the way of attacking threat for Newcastle in that game. And Wolves aren't incapable of keeping the clean sheet. Obviously, I've still got Doherty and I've still got Patricia, so very much considering starting Patricia. Doherty obviously starts anyway, but it's strong enough for me to pick him for this, definitely. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, threw in the cup as well. So just momentum just builds and builds and builds for Wolves. I think doing so well. Yeah, I shouldn't have come to you then. Sorry, you were like bottom pick.
That's all right. No, I don't mind.
Just looks like you're taking Wolves just as your first pick. Joe, no, I'm going to do me first because you were after me.
Okay.
We'll try and redeem some order. I'm going to go for Southampton, which is a bit of a weird pick, seeing as I had second pick of everyone. Arsenal were going to be there, but their defence is just all over the place, and. Yeah, I don't even fancy them to give clean sheet against Huddersfield, to be fair. And it's one of the things that puts me off. I can't never say his name. Kolasinac. I even watched a video of him saying how to pronounce it, and I've forgotten.
So you're saying you don't have the Kolasinac of how to say it?
Is it Kolasinac?
Well, I don't know. It could be. I actually don't know. It's one of the other.
Kolasinac. Well, it's what puts me off him. I mean, I think he is, attacking wise, pretty much the best defender you can get in the game, other than maybe Dean with his set plays.
Matt Doherty, what are we talking about?
Or, to be fair, or Matt Doherty. Yeah. But the lack of clean sheets is just ridiculous, and I still kind of feel like, defense wise, you want a team, you want a clean sheets are your bread and butter, and then attacking in terms of the extra. I still think you have to kind of stick for that. So I won't be going for an Arsenal defender, and I'm going to back Southampton because I think they were unlucky against Burnley. And I think a clean sheet is coming, and Cardiff are pretty awful away from home. So I think this could be their first shutout in a long time. Joe?
Okay, well, I can reveal that I did Burnley last week and didn't get me a clean sheet, so big cross for me there. So I'm hoping that Brighton, my team, will help me out. So their last 6 home matches, they've only conceded 5 goals. That's joint third best alongside Spurs there. They had 2 clean sheets over that time as well. Burnley, who they face, have the second worst attacking record over the last 6 away matches. Just 49 shots, and only Newcastle shooting less often over that time frame. So once again, I've done the research, and I'll be let tragically down, but at least I've done the research for it. So I've got
Ashley Barnes is a clean sheet breaker. So.
Oh, he is the breaker of hearts, and also against his former side as well.
Of course,
possibly.
Yeah.
So Luke has, we've all gone for actually quite left field picks with our clean sheets. Luke's gone for Liverpool. So Maverick at the group.
They're not very good defensively.
Maverick at the group. Surprising over City, to be honest, again. But
he always goes for them, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yes, what's happening with differentials then?
So differentials, let's try and get the order right this time. Who was first pick for those? Was it Joe? Joe, let's come to you first.
Okay, so I'm sticking with Brighton. I'm going for Pascal Gross, who's been posting some eye-popping.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I nearly exploded when I saw this.
My eye-exploding stats. He's only owned by 1.6%. Be warned, he does miss a fixture coming up because for the blank game week. But nevertheless, he's cheap enough, I think, to put Plonk on the bench if you are able to. 17 chances over the last 4 game weeks. That's more than any other player in the whole world. Well, just the Premier League, but that's pretty impressive. And 10 of those came in his last game. So,
is that? Did I see that's a record? Like a
could be, yeah.
Record in one game or something.
This is Özil is in his pomp. De Bruyne in his pomp type stats. Eriksen. This, these are he's up there with the gods, the key pass gods. So, yeah.
It also just shows how bad our strikers are. They create that many chances. We scored like 1 goal.
I know. Well, we've got this old man
It was
playing
0-0.
up front. But
10
yeah,
chances, one game, 0-0.
yeah. So yeah, I know. I think that's me. Gross, eye-popping stats.
Well, I'm going to be getting Gross in, I think, for Game Week 28 because they're going to have the double. They've got Leicester away, Huddersfield at home, Palace away. I love Pascal Gross from last season, and I kind of feel like it feels a bit of a kind of vanity transfer, but he's definitely coming back into my team as soon as that blank's over. Guaranteed. Can you remind me of that as well when it comes to? Because I'll probably forget.
Is it still your pinned tweet? Or is it a picture of him with the caption "God"?
He should be.
Yeah.
He should be. Yeah. But no, it's not. He is a fantastic player. David, you're next, I think.
Yeah, so I've gone for Fernando Llorente, which feels a bit left field, but hey, it's differentials. Basically, he's had more shots in the box in the last 4 game weeks than any other player, and he's only played in 3 matches and didn't start one of those as well. Obviously, he's not exactly the most accurate player there is, but I do kind of feel that he's going to get back in the team for the next game. Because the weird thing about that Spurs game was they're playing all these balls into the box, thinking, "Oh yeah, Lucas Moura and Eric Lamela, yeah, they'll be able to nod these in with their heads, but they're tiny." So, if they want to carry on playing that style of football, I think it was very clear that Llorente has got to be in the team, and they just looked a lot more likely to score when they had a guy on the pitch who's actually any good in the air. And I think it's important for them. I think he's going to start. Minutes per chance over the last 4 games of every 15.6 minutes, which is just ridiculous. And I know that he's missed a lot of sitters, but Leicester, don't particularly fancy them to, be particularly defensively amazing away at Spurs. And the thing is, again, it's just price and ownership. Like he's 5.6. So I mean, I know that if you're going to get Son, then they're not really comparable because Son is just a lot more reliable, but that shouldn't take away from the fact that 5.6 million is actually quite a decent price to pay for a potentially starting striker in a team like Spurs with stats like that. So definitely worth thinking about. He's been in the scout picks once or twice. He got us 12 points when we picked him in the scout pick. So
I've got to say, when I saw him, is this week, wasn't it? He was in the.
He was in scout pick. No, he was in scout picks the week before this one.
Yeah. I remember seeing him and I kind of turned my nose up and I thought, not feeling that at all. And he came good. So yeah, I'm going to trust you on that. I am going to go for Jota, who I've got in my own team, and I decided I'd get in because he just scored a hat-trick. He was playing out of position, and I was being really stubborn about Jimenez, and I thought, Jota should be able to cover his points and probably outscore him. He hasn't at all. It's been really painful. I think it's 9 points over the last 2 weeks, so not an absolutely massive difference, and Jota has been ticking over nicely, which has been fine. But I still think Jota can outscore Jimenez. And I looked at the heat map, and the shots and everything, all the stats are quite similar. But heat map wise, over the last 4 games, Jota is more advanced, and Jimenez is drifting out. It looks like a bit wider, and Jota's the man going forward. So I think not just for this kind of segment we do, but also just in general, if you are looking to get some ground, I think over the next, kind of 4 or 5 games, the fixtures for Wolves are just incredible. Triple up on Wolves with Doherty, Jota, Jimenez, and I think you'll be laughing.
Sound advice. Who's Luke gone for, by the way?
Luke has gone for Redmond.
Ooh, okay.
Who scored?
He's been dreadfully unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, James Eggersdorf, he's had Redmond for weeks, basically for this moment. Sold him this week.
Oh, no.
So he's having a similar season.
He's been a permanent fixture on the goals imminent table for several years now.
I was going to say he set up shop and lives there.
Yeah, he's lived there. Yeah, he's the king of imminent. I think the new manager's got more out of him.
Oh yeah, he suits their style of football, doesn't he?
I think that's a good pick this week at home to Cardiff.
And particularly if Ings is out as well, because Redmond's he's playing up front, isn't he?
Yeah, Redmond's been playing up front in the 3-5-2, so I'm guessing Long comes in for him. But Redmond's surely more of a goal threat than Shane Long, and I can say that. I mean,
Shane Long's just the guy that gets in the way and provides space. Well, let's move on to our plans, transfers, and captaincy. Let's get David's team up first. So, is this like to stay how it is with Salah captain and but you got 2 transfers, is that right? So
yes, I do.
Moves ahead.
Yeah, I'm probably only going to use one because I'd rather use the 2 for Game Week 27. I've kind of done the reverse strategy to what a lot of people do, which was to save 2 free transfers for the double, to spend 2 transfers to get them out. And to be fair, you could still spend 2 to get them in. You could still spend 2 to get them out. I accept that, but I wanted to absolutely guarantee that I had 2 free transfers to get people out that week, which was probably only going to use 1. Now, Salah captain, I think is pretty locked in. I know that obviously like Liverpool haven't looked great, but this home game against Bournemouth just looks like the perfect game for them to just get back on the horse. Doing the scout notes today for the Cardiff game, I mean, it was just driven home to me just how much of a Jekyll and Hyde team Bournemouth are, depending on where they're playing. They absolutely thrash Chelsea 4-0 at the Vitality, and then go and lose 2-0 against Cardiff. And to be fair, Cardiff I think played really well, and I think they were definitely up for the occasion with the whole Salah stuff that was all very sad. And I thought it was really great that they got that win. But then when you look at Bournemouth's away history over the last couple of weeks, it's rubbish. Basically, in their last, I think it's last 7 away games, they've just lost all of them in a row, and conceded 20 goals and scored 3 times. So for anyone who's worried about both their attacking and defensive assets, this game week just feels like a Robertson double-figure haul and a Salah 2 goals and assist, or a goal and assist, something like that.
And a Firmino brace as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let you have that, Joe. Yeah, you can have that. Yeah, that's fine. Yes, but I think it's going to be one of those games. I think easily going to be one of those games. The move I'm going to make probably going to be Sterling to Son. Son is definitely the guy I'm going to get, regardless of who I sell. It'll basically either be Sané or Sterling, largely depending on what happens on Wednesday, any injuries or what have you to either one. Sterling for me is the most likely to go, because I kind of fancy Sané to play against Chelsea. Anyway, regardless of what happens on Wednesday night, because I think the benching for the Arsenal game to me looks like he can then play Everton Chelsea.
So would he be up against Azpilicueta? Will I be right there?
Yes,
so
yes.
That's what puts me off slightly.
Yeah,
if he was up against Alonso, maybe.
Yeah, true. For me, I guess it's just money, because I just want to just have that a little bit of extra money in the bank, and then I could just trust Sané more than Sterling. This is why I feel a little bit annoyed with myself that I went for Sterling. I know he got me 10 points for that game, but I spent so much of this season initially saying, yeah, it looks very good. But once Sané kind of started to emerge as this alternative option, and it was an either or in like October, I just couldn't find anything to suggest that Sterling was better than Sané. And I think I still have that bias a bit of just Sané, to me, feels like the better Man City option, which may be influencing it. Like I said, still a lot to happen. So maybe Sané is the one to go. But at the moment, it's looking like Sterling to Son as my one transfer, bank the other one, roll it for 27.
Okay, well, Az, let's get your team up. So currently Salah captain again.
Yep.
And have you made moves? And if so,
I made 2 moves. Ooh. Yeah. Well, you know what? On Saturday, I had my finger on the wildcard button, and I thought, because I said last week, if I have another bad week, then I'm hitting the wildcard, and I'm going to try and make the most I can out of the fixtures, the fixture changes. And then I just did a -4, because I thought, well, I might as well just do the -4, because I'm probably going to wildcard anyway. So I took Sané out for Son, and I took Success out for Jimenez. And then I looked at my team and I thought, my God, I am going to have an amazing week.
It's an awesome looking team. It is, though.
And I firmly believe that this is the week where my luck changes, because I look at that team and I think, yes, I'm going to be quids in here. And to the point where I'm even thinking about bench boosting if Ings is fit, because I don't think I'm going to get a better bench than that between now and the end of the season. And I'm even thinking about triple captaining Salah.
Whoa.
Because I've flipped. But I agree with everything David said. I think that Bournemouth game is perfect for Liverpool. And I think Salah's going to score a load of goals.
Also, if you're looking ahead to your chips as well, if you, for example, triple captains here, the forthcoming chips, it may well be that you'd be using free hits or wildcard or bench boost for the next double game weeks, in which case the triple captaincy would probably have to go in a single game week. And what could be better than Salah against Bournemouth, who he really does love scoring against?
Yeah. So I've considered all three of my 4 chips this week, and I'll probably play none of them and be really boring. But I'm quite happy with my team this week, so I won't be wildcarding, but I might play another chip.
No, you definitely shouldn't wildcard that. Okay, well, here's my team. Yes, once again Salah. I'm fully on this. And I've got Firmino as well and Robertson. So my plan is, I think I'm going to get Son in for Sane, and that gives me plenty of money to get Firmino up to Aubameyang, who are most likely captain in Game Week 27. I could do Sigurdsson to Son now, but then I would have to get a hit to get Aubameyang in, who, that might, it could still work out depending which other player I got in. For example, Pereira at Leicester in for Laporte could fund that. But I think I'll keep it nice and simple, give myself some options, and if I can get Son and Aubameyang in over the next 2 game weeks, by avoiding a hit, I'll be pretty happy. And the rest of the team I'm pretty happy with. I've actually got a bit of a benching dilemma really. So I'm benching Luca Dean and Wan-Bissaka as well. So I've got Guaita there to cover. Isn't this a ridiculous situation? I have to get another Palace player in to cover Wan-Bissaka's points, 4.0 million that I paid for him. And so I'm pretty happy, obviously happy with my Wolves lads and Manchester United. Arguably Pogba, he's my vice captain. If I didn't captain Salah, I'd definitely captain Pogba against Fulham. I think that looks a great fixture there. So yeah, I'm
I wouldn't be surprised, Joe, if your bench outscores any bench boost in a double game week.
Well, indeed, because I've got Foster is getting save points. He can, even if he concedes, he can get about 4 points. Luca Dean, we know what he can do. I benched him before. 17 points I left on the bench one time. Wan-Bissaka, clean sheet, and Højbjerg there. I think that could be 3 points. And he does crop up with the odd attacking turn. Yeah, I think you're right. I wouldn't use my bench boost now. I just feel the best time for a bench boost is when teams at least have the option of playing twice. I think
you'd be kicking yourself if you play it in a single and it doesn't come off.
I've played it every year in a double and it's never worked because teams always rotate.
It's got me between 15 and a little over 20 points the times I've used it, which I think is fair, really.
Yeah,
I think
that's what you're aiming for. Really.
That's almost like them doing nothing; they're just turning up, and so if you're getting that, and I think, I think that's a fair tally. I don't know. Yeah, just for me, I'm just for a double, but. Yeah, so that's all of our moves there, and I hope people enjoyed and got something from that conversation we had about the emotional side of being a fantasy manager, because it's not something that's often talked about really, and so it's always good to talk. I just wanted to say before we go that we have some more videos this week to look out for. We have a captaincy Game Week 26 video coming up. I'll be doing that with David, I think, and team news as well with Neil, and we've got Breakfast Club on Saturday, and there's another Meet the Manager video being planned, so I'll be meeting another manager tomorrow evening, so hopefully we'll be able to get that published on Thursday or Friday, and it's a manager that I've actually met in real life as well, which is quite rare for these videos, so that's quite good. As I said, hope we've offered some comfort to people as well, and there's always hope as well this game week for us Sane owners, but for now it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Good night.
Good night all.